Alright, let's talk about the new Star Wars canon released via the comics for the month of December 2015. The first week of December saw the release of Star Wars issue number 13, and this was part 3 of part 6 of Vader Down and takes place between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. Quick refresher or plot summary up to this point so you won't be confused. Darth Vader has tracked down his son, yeah, he knows Luke is his son, to a planet. After Vader has defeated 2 full rebel squadrons on his own, Luke crashes his ship into Vader's, forcing them both to crash land. In this comic, we are continuing on from Leia heading out with rebel reinforcements to intercept Vader, thinking she can finally get vengeance for her planet's destruction, leaving Luke, whose fate is unknown after crashing his ship into Vader's and then himself crashing on the planet, to fend for himself. Han Solo is disgusted that the princess is willing to give up on Luke to take out Vader and heads out with Chewie to find the young Skywalker. Meanwhile, Luke has survived the crash and comes across an old and abandoned Jedi temple, but when he investigates, Vader's allies, including one disguised as C-3PO, tricks him, shocks him, and knocks him out. In number 13, we see R2-D2 defending the unconscious Luke and some pretty funny exchanges. Unfortunately, one of the droids that is allied with Vader and Aphra end up having bigger guns and chase R2 off. Aphra tells 000 to grab Luke, alive, but the explosions from the one droid chasing R2 are seen by Chewie and Han and they head to the location, hoping it is Luke. Chewie manages to sneak up on 000, rip his arm off, and Aphra and Han start shooting at each other. Meanwhile, at the Rebel base, they get Vader's location and Leia decides to head out with the Rebels to take down Vader. Back with Luke, he wakes up, manages to kick the droid chasing R2 off the edge of a cliff, but the droid reappears and Luke and R2 run like hell. While Chewie beats 000 with his own arm, and Aphra and Han both manage to shoot a hive of wasp worms on each other's heads and knock each other out. Eventually, Han, Chewie, Luke, and R2 get away. Back with the Rebels and Leia, hunting Darth Vader isn't going too well for them. When all the men are killed but Leia, she hears a voice behind her. Well, this is unexpected. Good evening, princess. And if you want more details on that comic, I actually made a video for that back in December, but it was a cute comic. There was a lot of cute moments, and it's definitely worth reading if you're into the Star Wars comic canon, especially seeing Vader just being a total badass, even though we only get a tiny bit of that in this comic. But you also get to see Luke and R2 just being so fiercely protective of Luke. Next in December, we saw the release of Star Wars Annual Number 1, and it's not really worth going in too much detail about it, at least personally for me. I don't feel like it adds a whole lot new to Star Wars canon. The comic featured a rebel spy named Neb Ray who has infiltrated Coruscant working under the guise of an Imperial tax collector. A series of events happens, and then the rebel spy ends up leading an assassination attempt on Emperor Palpatine, something we know that is doomed to fail. Though, through this story, we learn that there were 7 spies for the rebellion on the planet of Coruscant, deeply embedded in the Empire. And then we learn that the Emperor took them all out in one fell swoop with their failed assassination attempt. In fact, we're shown just how far ahead the Emperor is. He planned for the attempt on his life to happen so he could force the rebels to expose themselves, and he could take care of them all at once. He essentially created a propaganda coup, slandering the rebellion, permanently removing some senators, and he also got rid of all the spies on his planet while being able to watch the devastation of what he'd done on the rebels' faces. So yeah, all he does is win-win-win in this comic. And while I was a little disappointed that I wish they would have done something else besides an assassination attempt on Palpatine, I really think that showing just how amazing Emperor Palpatine was and how he was always planning ahead and just how evil he was, that it's just not good enough to thwart you, to stop you. He wants to watch the devastation on your face. That's just chilly evil. So a little disappointed that it was about assassination attempt, but not disappointed about how they portrayed Emperor Palpatine, and it is another comic that I think was definitely worth a read. And of course, it's always interesting to see more about how the rebellion works and where their spies were located and how they infiltrated into the Empire and were trying to bring them down. In the third week, Darth Vader Annual Number 1 and Kanan Number 9 were released. Darth Vader Annual number 1 was another one-off story, as annuals usually are if you're a comic reader, and it didn't really add a whole lot to Star Wars canon, but it actually was a really enjoyable story. So if you don't want to read the rest of the Darth Vader series, which you need to, it's amazing, but if you don't, you could actually just pick up this issue, and it's just kind of a one-off story, and it would still be enjoyable for you to read without you feeling confused about what is going on.
In it, Vader travels to a planet to take care of an uprising against the Galactic Empire. After the first Death Star was destroyed, it ignited faith that the rebellion will prevail, and the Emperor now has a greater need to eliminate all those threats. Vader arrives on one of these planets that is starting to rebel, and gives the ruling monarch a gift, a chunk of the destroyed Alderaan, sending a very clear message. You mess with the Empire? You refuse to serve us? And we will obliterate you.
And there are also a lot of fun moments in this comic. I always enjoy seeing how amazing Darth Vader is and just how powerful he is, and we get quite a few examples of his power and showing just how awesome he is. So this is definitely another comic that I would recommend. But again, it didn't really add a whole lot to Star Wars canon, besides there's political upheaval following the first Death Star's destruction, and the Emperor is trying to keep a lid on it and keep people in line, and of course he's sending his servant, Darth Vader, to take care of it.
In Kanan number 9, the rebel group is inside a building surrounded by Imperials. They can't run as Kanan is still in the tank healing from his stab wound. While healing, he continues to have flashbacks to his past, where he's training with Master Bilaba on the planet of Cardoa, where he serves as her Padawan. And in a way, they're both having their first mission. This is Kanan's first mission, period, and this is Bilaba's first mission since she nearly died and spent 6 months in a coma. In this issue, we continue to see her regret in her failure of her last command and all the people under her that were killed. We also see young Kanan interacting with the troopers that will one day turn on him and his master, leading him to run and discard his childhood name of Caleb, and take on other identities, such as the name Kanan. And they are on the planet to figure out if Separatists are on the planet, and we see that Separatists are aware that the Republic is on the planet. And the Separatists end up sending one of their own agents, Seer, to Cardoa to take care of the Jedi's presence. While Kanan, Bilaba, and their troopers are out on recon, Kanan starts to bond with an inexperienced trooper, but then they're ambushed during the recon, and Kanan gets cocky trying to show off his skills, and then gets shot in several spots. The inexperienced trooper that Kanan had been bonding with disobeys orders and gets out in front of Kanan and protects him, essentially saving his life. Kanan survives, and Bilaba gets the Separatists to leave the planet. And the inexperienced trooper that risked his life and disobeyed orders to save Kanan is given a name, Stance. They were then given a new assignment. But we learn that General Grievous has decided it's time he has dealt with Bilaba himself.
So just an issue dealing with Bilaba and Kanan and how she was training him as a Padawan and the adventures they went on, and giving us a little bit more backstory into Bilaba and the things that went on with her and how she's dealing with her past failures and how that affects her. And still a really good issue.
Darth Vader number 14 followed and wasn't the strongest issue. We see how Leia escapes Vader. Vader pretends that he senses an ambush and allows Leia to run away, hoping she'll tell her friends where she is and lure Luke to her. But Leia has other plans. She tells the rebels to bomb her location, hoping Vader will chase after her, and the bombing will not only kill her, but Vader. Of course, Han and Luke learn about this, and they decide that's not a good plan, and they head out to rescue her from her suicide mission. On their way, they are hit and the Falcon crashes. A bounty hunter attempts to take Luke, but Han and Chewie hold him off, telling Luke to rescue the princess. Luke doesn't arrive in time as the rebels come to bomb Leia's spot, but before they can actually fire it all, Imperials show up, led by Commander Carbon, who wants Luke. We also discover Aphra and the droids are alive, and C-3PO is intercepted by them, where 000 takes both his arms to replace his own, because poor C-3PO constantly has to lose limbs. The last week of December, the Chewbacca miniseries ended, and we got a new series, Obi-Wan and Anakin. The Chewbacca series, which wasn't my favorite, had a good ending, and this series was basically just following Chewie trying to help a girl whose planet was being taken over by Imperials and an opportunistic gangster named Jam, And really, this is what the comics added to Star Wars canon, is just showing how the Empire came through and went after planet, trying to suck resources from it to continue building. And the absolute horror that they brought to each planet that they did that to. So Chewie and the girl end up on a Star Destroyer that's going to be blown up by their own plan and their own bomb at any moment, and they need to escape in this issue. And they do end up escaping, and they blame the bomb and all that on Jam, saying he's a rebel spy, and that Chewie and the girl are actually there just trying to help the Empire. There's an explosion on the Star Destroyer, and they use that time to get into a TIE fighter and escape back to the girl's planet. Meanwhile, Jam is left on the destroyer to be tortured for the next few weeks. On the planet, the girl talks about how they saved the planet from the Empire, but she wishes someone knew or she got a little gratitude. Chewie then gives her the medal he was awarded at the end of A New Hope. After Chewie leaves, the girl remarks that she wanted him to stay, but she thinks that he survived his own Jam, and he didn't want to see her people live as slaves like he had done. Which we do know Chewie and his people were enslaved. She also realizes she can never repay the Wookiee for ensuring war didn't come to her planet. Chewie himself returns to his home to present the sash of a dead Wookiee to a family. Chewie also visits his own family, and we see the Falcon flying overhead. Finally, we got the new series, Obi-Wan and Anakin, that takes place when Anakin is just on the cusp of becoming a teenager. Obi-Wan has honored Qui-Gon's dying wish to train Anakin and has been training him as his Padawan. Anakin has proven to be stronger in the Force than any child trained in generations. However, Anakin and Obi-Wan have both begun to question their roles and the destiny of the Force. They embark on a mission to the far reaches of the galaxy to respond to a distress call. In this issue, Obi-Wan is unable to avoid the dense debris field around the planet and crashes to the snowy surface. Here they discover the world destroyed itself a very long time ago, but there is still fighting going on. We see Anakin question why the Republic and Jedi didn't stop the destruction, and Obi-Wan explains that the Jedi are under the jurisdiction of the Senate, and that even if they weren't, there wasn't enough Jedi to keep peace in the entire galaxy. They are there to guide and teach, but they aren't an army. Yet. Anakin is upset that due to the system, the entire world is just gone. Obi-Wan expresses he doesn't like it either, and that the system isn't perfect. Anakin says the system should change, and Obi-Wan says perhaps someday it will. When they finally meet some people on the planet, wondering who sent the signal, these people have no idea what the Jedi even are.
And it's during all this that we learn that Anakin has actually quit the Jedi Order. He has talked to Obi-Wan and he's like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And Obi-Wan actually respects that, and they're going on this one last mission, and Anakin has even given his lightsaber back to Obi-Wan. And because they're in danger, Obi-Wan hands it back to him, and Anakin's like, no, I'm serious. I'm done with the Jedi. I'm done with the Order. I don't want my lightsaber. And Obi-Wan's like, okay, but until we're out of danger, just have it just in case. So that actually was a really cool canon addition about the doubts Anakin was having even before he was a teenager. Even before a teenager, there's just something not right about the Jedi Order. This is wrong. It needs to be fixed.
What is even more fun about this issue is the flashback to Anakin's training and his love of the lightsaber. He even reprograms the training droid to look like the Sith that killed Qui-Gon, Darth Maul. We also learn Anakin is picked on at the temple, with other Padawans saying he'll never make a good Jedi since he's just a slave to his emotions. Just a slave. Wrong thing to call Anakin. In one incident, Anakin uses the Force to take the boys' lightsabers and point them at the two boys, asking, "Tell me, what emotion are you feeling right now?" Obi-Wan jumps down and tells Anakin to stop, and Anakin apologizes to the boys, telling them that they're right. He needs better control over his emotions. Palpatine then forces Windu to send the boy to him for guidance, telling the reluctant man, "Hey, Skywalker is a Jedi, and the Jedi are under the Senate's jurisdiction, and as I am a Chancellor of the Senate," and so he's basically forced to give Anakin to Palpatine to mentor, since he can't go against the wishes of the Senate.
And now we're basically just waiting to see more of Palpatine manipulating Anakin and how he kind of gets under his skin and into Anakin's mind and starts controlling him and making him his little puppet. And I will say this again, I know it is only the first issue of this new series. It is really good. It is so good. If I were to tell you to only pick up 2 series, it would be Darth Vader and this new series, because it seriously wowed me. So those were the big canon additions to Star Wars via the comics for the month of December 2015. We will be doing a January one for all that canon coming up very soon. Besides that, make sure you come back every week for Star Wars videos. Besides that, we have Game of Thrones history and comic videos. Make sure you like and subscribe.